Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Across the World. My name is Tim Jones, coming to you from Seattle in the United States of America. And as always, I'm joined by my good friend, Hamad Hassan from Lahore, Pakistan. And today we're going to talk about the challenge of climate change. I'm going to ask Hamad some questions about Pakistan and how they're dealing with this challenge. And he's going to ask me some questions about how the United States is dealing with the challenge of climate change. Good morning. Oh, I should say good evening. Hamad, how you doing?
Good morning, Tim. I'm doing fine. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. We are, by the way, in a part of the United States in Seattle that is cold compared to the rest of the country. Most of our country is expected to have a very hot summer, but we are in the Pacific Northwest, this tiny fringe in the top corner of the United States, where we have much cooler weather in the summer than any place else in our entire country. So it's sort of an odd thing. So climate change is an important topic. So I'd like to ask some questions. How would you say the climate change in recent years, maybe in the last 10 to 20 years, how has it affected daily life in Pakistan?
Uh, as you know that here in Pakistan, the normal temperature in summer in the places like Punjab, like I'm in Lahore, is 44 degrees centigrade, normal average temperature, you can say. And according to the international and national environmental scientists, Pakistan and neighboring countries are considered among the most affected by this climate change. That just doesn't mean that the temperature will rise and our glaciers will melt. This also means that it is a threat to our food security, and water security is already a problem. And so all this situation is eventually leading to a regional security of Pakistan. So we can say, and Pakistan is an agricultural country, and due to the climate change this year, the production of our agricultural products, like our main product is mango or cotton, and it has reduced to 50%.
Oh,
50%
wow.
is too much. And Pakistan is also a middle to a low income country, and our whole economy is based on agriculture. So you can assume that how threatful it is for Pakistan.
Yeah, I can imagine. Are there any major steps being taken by your government or any other authorities to try to address the problem of climate change in your country?
Uh, that I can say that although Pakistan is not contributing too much in global warming and climate change, but yet it is the most affected country by the climate change, and vehicular emissions is like the number one cause of poor air quality, especially here in Lahore. And allegedly, one of the major causes is also burning of crops. Majority of farmers burn their agriculture waste. It is a standard practice which is performed, and it is very alarming for our air. And to be honest, climate has been never be on the top priority of our governments. And but they have made legislations like in 2006, and the government of Punjab just decided that there will be a ban on two-stroke rickshaws. Rickshaw is here in Pakistan is a taxi, you can say, is a three-wheel taxi, and government of Pakistan banned it in 2006, but you will be shocked to hear that still in 2022 it is on the road. And similarly, in 1997, the Punjab Environmental Act was passed, which was which prescribed the regulations of industrial and vehicular emissions. And so Pakistan has a very rich history in the regulations to control the environment. But the thing is that there is no implications of these laws, you can say.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
recently, the previous our ex-prime minister Imran Khan launched a billion tree tsunami project, which was recognized on the international level that it is a very good step towards reducing the effects of the climate change. So billion tree tsunami was a good step, I think so, by the government of Pakistan.
Okay. If the current challenges in climate change keep building, what would you say are some of the major threats that Pakistan might expect to face in the near future?
Uh, Massive floods in the last 10 years, glaciers are melting faster than ever, and the heat wave has become a very regular part in summers. And by 2100, the glaciers of Pakistan will melt about 36%. And you know that the glaciers of Pakistan are the source of fresh water, and it's the biggest source in the world outside the polar region, and melting at a very faster rate. So it is expected that if the situation continues, there will be more floods, there will be more heat waves, and it will be have impact on our water resources and the agriculture resources, and it will be have a very much of worse scenario for Pakistan in the future.
Would you say the challenges that you're facing are in part more because of Pakistan's own business and governmental policies, or is this really way more a regional challenge and not really caused by some of the things that Pakistan itself is doing? So are the challenges and the problems in terms of addressing these challenges more about shortcomings and limitations by Pakistan or the region in general?
Um, I think so. It is, as you know, that Pakistan is only contributing 1% of the carbon emission of the whole world. So it is. I think so. It is a regional problem. Also, in our neighbor, there is a big industrial country, India, and our neighbor there is a big industrial country, China. So it is a problem it's a regional problem. I can say that Pakistan cannot only fight alone with this problem. All the region, and I think so whole the world have to unite on this issue, because it is becoming a core issue of a basic base of every problem which is now happening in the world.
Okay. What steps would you recommend the government take to address the climate challenge change? And do you think most Pakistanis would support some of these? If you were the president, what would you recommend doing differently, and how would people support them, or would they not?
I think so. The first thing is priority of the government is very much important. In the past, in the history, the government has not shown any priority to tackle this problem, and it was not considered a primary issue. So first thing the government has to do is prioritize when you are making policies, you have to prioritize this issue. And secondly, awareness. You know that people in Pakistan are not aware of the problem, that how environment is damaging our economy. We just the common man only blames the government on the issue of petrol prices and inflation, but he do not know that behind this the main problem is the environment. And awareness is very much important. So government should launch the awareness programs in the public. So public should understand and should contribute with the governments. So as a nation, we can deal with this problem.
Okay. Well, first of all, before I turn this over to you, you have some questions for me. I will say that there's a lot of parallel between the challenges that Pakistan is facing and that the United States is facing. We have many parts of our country that are in terrible drought conditions. California, one of our biggest agricultural producing states in the country, is experiencing the worst drought it has experienced in 1,200 years. It's quite serious. Reservoir levels are down 30, 40, 50% from where they were, 20 years ago. We also have the same challenge of a lot of people feel this is a problem, but the government is not really doing anything. And we can talk a little bit more about that as to why. So why don't you ask me some of the questions that came to your mind, and I'll do the best I can to try to answer them from an American perspective.
So as you know that America is a big industrial country, and out of the carbon emission, America is 80% producer of the carbon emission. So why did President Trump decide to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord agreement?
I'll try to give a short answer, and a Trump supporter would give you a different answer than I would. Um, Trump supporters would say that the agreement was unfair, it was imbalanced, they were asking too much of the United States and not enough of the other countries, and that's why we left. But I really think it came down to Trump really didn't care about the rest of the world. He did not view climate change as the serious world crisis that it is. And I believe that he felt it would be very popular among his base of supporters to basically defy the rest of the world and say, you know what, we don't care what the rest of the world's doing. You're going that way, we're going this way, because all we care about is America. We don't care about the rest of the world. We're going to do things our way. So it's a very nationalistic, very populist reaction to basically say, we don't care about the rest of the world. We do things our way. But it was very short-sighted. That's why, President Biden, the moment he became president, one of the first things he committed to was to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, because he realized that this is not any one nation's problem. Because of the very short-sighted nature of stepping away from the Paris Climate Accord under Trump, that's why when President Biden took office in January 2021, one of the very first things he did, literally one of the very first executive decisions he made, was to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, because he sees our role as being part of he realizes that climate change is a worldwide crisis, and we are one of the bigger contributors to global carbon emissions. So he realized that we need to be a part of the global response to climate change and not be an outlier standing there ignoring the rest of the world. So the same reasons that motivated Biden to start re-engaging with NATO, it's the same reasons why he wanted to re-engage and rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, because he realizes we are part of the nation, the world of nations that needs to address this, and we can't turn our back on it.
So I think it was a good step of the President Biden that he put back the America into the Paris Climate Accord. And what do you think that what can the United States do to cooperate with the world addressing the threat of the climate change?
Well, there's a lot of initiatives that have been proposed over and over again to try to get us off oil, try to move us more and more towards alternative energy solutions like wind and solar. Though those types of alternative energy sources they use up more sources like coal and things than we might realize. The solutions are not as simple as we may think. The challenges, and it always comes back to politics. A lot of businesses do not want the regulations that would, cap their emissions or tax them, cause them financial penalties for spewing out all of this carbon. But the Republican Party is very pro-business, very anti-regulation, and far less concerned about climate change than the Democratic Party. So almost all of the legislation over the last 20 years about fighting climate change has come from the Democratic side of Congress, and the Republican side has generally said no, because they viewed it as anti-business, government overreach, and they just don't feel as convinced as a lot of people that climate change is really the problem that people like myself think it is. So a lot of our struggles are internal. If Joe Biden as president could just say, we're going to do these things by executive order, we would be way further down the road towards addressing climate change. But he can't. In our country, there's the executive branch, the judiciary branch, which is the judges, and the legislative branch, which is Congress. And laws like the type to fight climate change have to emanate from Congress. And we are a very divided country. Our Congress has literally 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans. And to get any legislation through, you need 60 people to be in favor of it. And so even if we get 3 or 4 Republicans to agree, yes, we need to do something, that's 53. We need 60 votes to get any meaningful change. And it's been the problem with climate change. It's been the problem with gun control. All these issues come down to we are such a divided nation that the forces that feel we need to do something with climate change are not enough to get to that 60 vote threshold to make meaningful change. It's a very frustrating thing. It comes down to politics. It really does. And it's very frustrating for someone like me who can see the challenges of climate change. I live in a state where there are, every year there's forest fires in the summertime, these wildfires that consume thousands and thousands of acres of land throughout the Western America. It's all because of climate change. And yet very little is done. Most of the actions are done by the individual states. We get more things done at the state level than at the federal level.
Thank you, Tim, for our today's session.
Thank you very much, Maud. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.